today's tutorial, we're going to be going ahead and creating cutscenes for our horror game inside of Roblox Studio. For me personally, I'm going to be having my cutscene over here inside of my forest. It's going to be around the campfire right about here. And first things first, we're going to need some cameras for our cutscene. So I'm going to click on this part button right up here. And what that's going to do is going to insert a part into my game. I'm going to drag it over a little bit and we can resize this to make much more of a square shape for our camera. After that, we want to click on the plus icon at the right of our part inside of our Explorer window. And we're going to search for a decal. Now this decal is going to show you which side is forwards for this part. For this case, the orange little outline is around the front face of my part, which means that the front face is facing that way. We need to know this because when we go ahead and script our camera script for our cutscenes here, we want to make sure that our camera is going to be facing the right direction so that we can actually position it to the right position. So you can delete the decal now that we know the right face. And all we have to do is simply turn this part around 180 degrees and is now facing the right way. After that, it's simply a matter of positioning our part wherever we want the camera to look. For me personally, I'm going to be aiming it at the campfire for my cutscene. And then I'm also going to put another one over here. It's going to be in a different location. And don't forget, you can have as many cameras as you would like to. I'm personally going to have 3 cameras, so I'm just going to do one more camera over here. And I'm going to turn it around one more time to be facing the campfire. Now we have all of our cameras, we can go ahead and name them in the order that we want them to go ahead and go. For me, that's going to be camera 1, this one's going to be camera 2, and this one is going to be camera 3. We also want to make sure that all 3 of these cameras are anchored. And you can also turn off can collide so that we cannot collide with them. From then on, if you want to turn the transparency up, you definitely can. Feel free to do that. From there, we can grab all of our cameras, right click and press group as a folder. And then we can rename this folder to cameras. Or you can rename this to first cutscene. It depends on if you want to have multiple cutscenes or not in your game. The next thing we want to decide is how you want your cutscene to trigger. Do you want this cutscene to play whenever the player joins the game? Do you want this cutscene to play whenever a player touches a part? I'm going to show you how to do both of those. If you want the cutscene to play whenever we touch a part, we need to create the trigger for that part. So for me, I'm going to create a part right here. I'm going to make it bigger. It's going to be about this big, I think. I'm just going to put it right inside of here, so that way the player has every single chance in the world to hit this part, and there's no way that they're not going to hit it. From there, I'm going to make this part transparent, so that way the player cannot see it. I'm going to make sure it's anchored, and then I'm going to turn off can collide, so that way the player can still go through it, and I'm simply going to name this to trigger. From there, we can put this inside of the first cutscene folder. And then we want to go ahead, grab all 3 of our cameras right here inside of our cutscene folder, group them as another folder, and we're going to name them to cameras, just like this. So that way we can keep all of our things nice and organized for our cutscene here. So now we have a camera and we have a trigger for our cutscene. We can actually go ahead and start scripting. So let's go over to server script service right here and click on the plus icon, and I'm going to insert a script. This script I'm going to rename to first cutscene, and then right before we get scripting, we go to replicated storage, click on the plus icon and insert a folder. And this folder we're going to rename to remotes because we're going to be using a remote event to communicate between the server and the client for our cutscenes. Then we want to click on the plus icon to the right of our remotes folder and then click on a remote event. From there, I'm going to rename this remote event to trigger cutscene, and we can get scripting. So right up here at the top, I'm just going to declare a comment right here for our services just to keep our code nice and organized. This is completely optional. And then I'm going to create a variable for our players service, which is going to be equal to game:get service players. We're also going to need the replicated storage service, which is going to be equal to game:get service replicated storage. Let's drop down a few lines and say variables this time for our comment. And we're going to say local remotes folder will be equal to replicated storage.remotes, and then our local trigger cutscene will be equal to remotes folder.trigger cutscene. We're also going to need another variable for our first cutscene inside of our workspace here. So I'm going to say local cutscene folder will be equal to game.workspace.firstCutscene, or this will be the name of whatever your cutscene folder is. And I'm going to simply create another comment for our functions, once again just keeping the code nice and organized. And now here's where you need to decide how you want your cutscene to play. If you want your cutscene to play as soon as the player joins the game, then all you need to say is players.playerAdded connect function. We'll take a player as a parameter for this function, and you simply say trigger cutscene, fire client, and then put the player inside of there. This is simply going to trigger the cutscene whenever the player joins the game. However, if you had a trigger inside of your first cutscene part, then you can say if cutscene folder find first child trigger, then we're going to say cutscene folder dot trigger dot touched connect function, and this will take the hit part as a parameter. And we're going to check if hit dot parent find first child humanoid, then, which means that if the thing that hit our part was actually a human or a player in our case, then we're going to go ahead and get that player, which will be equal to game.players, or actually we have our player service declared up here, so we can say players colon get player from character, and then this will be hit.parent. From there we can check if it actually was a player, then we can say cutscene folder dot trigger destroy because we no longer need it, and then we'll say trigger cutscene colon fire all clients. The reason why we're using fire all clients instead of just fire client is simply because if you have a multiplayer horror game, then you want the cutscene to play for everybody as soon as this trigger gets touched. Another thing that I just thought about that could be much more beneficial is that inside of our fire all clients, I think it would be much better if we passed our cutscene folder to the client. That way we can handle multiple cutscenes simply from the server if you decide to do multiple cutscenes. So if you're doing the cutscene that is triggered whenever the player joins the game, and you're doing the fire client like that, I would also recommend passing the cutscene folder to the client. And anyways, from there we can go down to starter player, starter character scripts, and insert a local script. This local script I'm simply going to rename to cutscene client, like so. And we can go back to our first cutscene script in server storage, and we can actually go ahead and copy the first few lines of our code from our services comment up here to our trigger cutscene remote event. I'm just going to copy all of this, and we can go ahead and paste this right into our local script. We're also going to want to go ahead and get the player, which will be equal to players.localPlayer. And we're also going to want to get the local current camera, which will be equal to game.workspace.currentCamera. This is the current camera that the player is using. It's the camera that controls how they move around inside of their viewport. It's pretty much everything that the player uses to see and drag their camera around. Let's go down a few lines here and create another comment for our functions. We're going to say trigger cutscene.onClient event. We're going to connect a function here. And we're also going to take our cutscene folder as a parameter right here. Local cameras will be equal to cutscene folder.cameras colon get children. Now, whenever we say get children after a certain instance right here, it's simply going to return all of the objects that are inside of that instance. For this case, our cameras folder, which is this cameras folder right here, has 3 cameras inside of it. So whenever we say get children, it's going to return all of these cameras right here because they are inside of the cameras folder. Let's go ahead and get our tween service variable up here, which is going to be equal to game get service tween service, which if you don't know what tween service is, it's simply what we use to animate instances that aren't normally rigged for typical animation. And now when you say for I will be equal to 1, so we're going to create a for loop right here, and we're going to start the loop at 1, with the index at 1, I should say. The index will be equal to 1. That's what the I usually stands for. And then we need an endpoint of what to go up to. So what we're going to be using is called a hashtag or a £sign. And we're going to put our cameras right here. Now, whenever we put a hashtag before a certain instance like this, or a certain variable, I should say. So remember when we got all these children right here, those are going to be all the cameras inside of our folder. Whenever we put a hashtag right here, it's simply going to tell how many of those children there are. So in this case, there are 3 cameras, so it's simply going to say 3. However, if we had 4, 5, 6 cameras, it would say 4, 5, or 6 cameras right here. Then we're going to say do, and inside of this for loop, we're going to say local tween will be equal to tween service create. We're going to take current camera as the instance that we're going to be tweening, and for our tween info, this will be tweeninfo.new. For the time, this is going to be the time it's going to take to go to the next camera. For me, I'm personally going to set this at about 3 seconds or so, but depends on what you would like to do. It could be 2, it could be 1, it could even be more, something like 10 seconds even. Depends on how long you want your cutscene to be. I'm then going to choose an enum.easing style of quad, but you can choose any of the other ones you'd like to, whether that be linear, elastic. For me, I'm going to do quad, as I said, and then we can choose the enum.easing direction as well, which I'm going to set to in out. However, if you would like to choose out or in, it's completely up to you because this is completely customizable to how you want your cutscene to be. After that, let's go outside of this first parenthesis, and now we need to create our property table or our goal for our tween. For this, I'm going to set the C frame will be equal to our cutscene folder dot cameras square brackets. This will be cam, and outside of these quotation marks, .i, or index, I mean. And then outside these square brackets, we can say .cframe. And I forgot that we need to put this index inside of parentheses right here, and we're going to do +1. And what that's going to do is simply going to find the next camera for our cutscene to go to, pretty much. And we also just want to specify if cutscene folder .cameras square brackets cam .index +1, then we can go ahead and call this tween. What that's going to do is simply going to check if there's another camera for it to go to, then we can go ahead and proceed. So then we can simply say tween play, and then tween.completed wait. This is simply going to wait before going to the next camera right here. And if you'd like to do anything else right here, you definitely can. Whether that be while your tween is playing, you can create an animation for your rig, or if you are going to have a rig inside your animation. However, I don't have one of those, so I'm not going to be doing that, but you can do anything else that you would like to during this cutscene. It is important we want to go ahead and set the current camera type will be equal to enum.cameratype.scriptable. This will simply make it so we can actually go ahead and script the current camera. And we'll want to say current camera.cframe will be equal to cutscene folder.cameras.cam1.cframe. What this is going to do is it's simply going to go ahead and set the C-frame of our camera to the C-frame of the first camera inside of our cutscene. And what that's going to do is going to go ahead and make sure that our camera is like automatically adjusted to the first camera, and that way it doesn't tween slowly over to the next camera and kind of mess up our cutscene, if that makes any sense at all. And then after our for loop right here, since our cutscene is done, we can simply say current camera.cameratype will be equal to enum.cameratype.custom, and this will just reset our camera back to the player. Alright, so it appears it doesn't want to take this as reasonable logic, so instead we're going to say if cutscene folder.cameras find first child parentheses, this will be cam index +1, then it should be working much better now. So if it's actually going to find the camera inside of our cameras folder, then it will proceed. Otherwise, it's simply not going to do that. Let's go ahead and click on play. Let's test this out. So our cutscenes are playing, and there we go. So it got to the end of our cutscene and we are good to go. Now, one last thing, we are getting an error here for our triggers not a valid member of our folder workspace.first cutscene, and that's simply because we're not actually using a debounce for our cutscene trigger function right here. And what that's going to do is going to call multiple functions whenever this part gets touched or triggered. So in order to fix this, let's just create another variable for our debounce, which will be set to false. We're going to set if player and debounce is equals to false. Then we'll say debounce will be equal to true. What this is going to do is simply make sure that only one of these triggers is going to get through, and that way we will not error because we're not calling multiple of these triggers at the same time. Now I'm going to move my horror monster back into the workspace so I don't forget about him in replicated storage. But that is everything that we need to do for our cutscene inside of Roblox Studio. If you would like to wait a few seconds before returning to the player, you can simply put a task.wait of 3 seconds right here, or even just a wait of 3 seconds. It doesn't really matter, but that's just simply going to make it so that you can wait a few seconds at the last camera if you'd like to before returning back to the player's camera. But yeah, that's how we're going to make cutscenes inside of Roblox Studio. If you enjoyed this tutorial just as much as I did, please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.